How's it going, everybody? So today is going to be a real quick recap about upgrade from 2105 to 2108 CDF, and it's going to be quick for a good reason. Apparently, it's super duper mega fast and convenient compared to previous ones. I know it sounds really weird because the product is very complex and everything, but that's exactly what's going on. So instead of my usual follow through for every single step, let's quickly review the documentation and what's going on in the environments. So just to give you an update about what's going on, here's the production environment being updated in place. This is how good it is, and it was actually validated in dev before I did it here. But the point is, it's a single command upgrade for the CDF itself, and this is it running over here. And unlike previous versions, you can specify the root password for the nodes in the command line. This is documented this way this time, and it just goes with it. It just goes with it. Then the other step would be upgrading a couple of things, which we'll overview in a second. And then you just run helm reconfigure command, and that's about it. There is one skill or one thing that is confusing and needed. We will review it thoroughly because it confused me, and I hope it kind of will help whoever is upgrading their instances at the moment. But other than that, it just works flawlessly. Right, so here it is basically running the subgrade. And the point is that it just copies the file to all of the nodes. It's an auto updater, and it does everything that it needs. And it upgrades basically the Kubernetes and the underlying CDF structure in the in-house variation of the suite. But if you look at the documentation, right? So immediately when we go to this plan section or configure permissions, which talks about setting up the passwordless, right? A passwordless SSH, which is not required. Repeat, you do not need it at all, while there is like a whole section dedicated to it in every upgrade scenario for every version of CDF that you see over here. Still, it's just a single thing that you don't need, right? When you go to backup data, of course, if you're in production, do whatever you need, but then download and zip and verify the upgrade package. So if you have staging environment, you can actually do it in parallel. That's exactly what I did. So I went to my production while the dev was running, and I copied the download images, if you're familiar with this one, offline download, which is like a generated download and upload script for your particular CDF instance. And I just ran download and upload images while being on the older version before CDF upgrade, because those are just images in repository, so it shouldn't care. And it saves you a bunch of time. Then we have this ensure all control fates are running. That's okay. Prepare environment, no need in that. Now upgrade CDF itself, right? It's the upgrade auto upgrade script, but it kind of glances over it. But this minus capital P option password, that's all you need in order to, well, you basically say auto upgrade. You specify an empty folder that it will use for the upgrade itself and a password of one of the nodes. Doesn't matter which node it is, just pick one and it will continue working on all of them. So in my example over here, which is still upgrading, basically when I let me scroll up here real quick and we'll review the step, right? So when I run the environment, it basically took all of the other nodes and just found all of them and executing all of the steps on them, right? Of creating work, copying upgrade, and everything is great, right? And when it will done, it will just ask you maybe to clear up the temporary directory for the upgrade so it wouldn't occupy as much space, which is super nice, right? You can also drain, but if you try to do a side-by-side or high availability upgrade, I don't do with those kind of things. Just doesn't matter. All right. Now, one of the things that we will see where it fails is if your Vertica is down. For some reason, my Vertica wasn't very stable in dev, so it happened. right? There is like verify with cube status, doesn't matter. Upgrade Vertica plugin again. While the chart includes several files, let's review them real fast. Actually, that's a funny story. So this is the new Suite chart. So I'll go to OPSBridge. The Suite chart, CD tools, I believe, right? So it includes three Verticas, the 9.2, 10.1.0 and 10.1.1, but 10.1.0 is supported. So this is what I had previously. So I didn't really need to upgrade my Vertica, but I did it in the past, and it's really a single command that you do. Okay, it's just you stop Vertica, you run this RPM QA UVH thing, and you start it back. However, it says 10.0 to 10.01. That's the requirement. Just do a couple of things, but we don't need to do that. So if you started with the 05 release, you probably don't need to do that at all. Now, the Helm upgrade was a little bit interesting. So you need to upgrade the storage provisioner chart. And if you try to run the command as it says here in the documentation with CDF home, it doesn't read it for some reason. So you need to replace it with the real path. Okay, so it's going to be /opt/Kubernetes, and only then it's going to be same charts and everything else. So that's the only difference between this documentation. And of course, I'm not using one with the YAML file because I try to use everything with out of the box, while LPP YAML would be a variation of it with different settings, different to the one that come out of the box. Okay, download and upload required images, very similar to what has been here for the past 4 years, I believe already. And now there is like this thing, upgrade the suite using UpHub UI or using the CLI. Now UpHub was introduced in the previous version, but I didn't have any good experience with it. I was rushing through, and I had some dependencies that I just didn't want to risk anything, so I didn't use the UpHub UI. I used the CLI. So to do the CLI, you just go to the CLI, and here we have an interesting thing. Right, so and here we will linger a little bit. So it says update the values YAML. Now, if you remember, in the past, we had this YAMLs, the YAML file that we were creating. So if we'll go to the old chart and samples directory, right? So basically, you would take the values YAML, which is example, you would copy it to something else, and then you edit the settings. So for example, for me, it would be things like, specify, like, do you accept the end user license agreement, what kind of capabilities you want, and you provide one by one all kinds of things that you want to be configured in your suite one by one. Now, which is natural, and you've seen it before, great. However, if you go here, it starts to confuse you a little bit because it's kind of out of context, really, and I'll submit a documentation request to change it a little bit. But basically, it says, well, find your deployment, and then run the following command to retrieve the values YAML from existing chart. So basically, it would export your current settings or current configuration into a YAML file. But then it says, well, you will take the YAML file from the 08 release, right? Which you can in the sample, and then manually copy the values required by 2108 values from 2105 values YAML, right? So we have a little bit of confusion. One thing, we extract the values into a file, right? And I think I can check this file somewhere here. Just 1 second. 1 second. Oh, come on. Right. So this is the values that is generated by the command. And when you look at it, it doesn't look too much like something useful. I mean, compared to the one that we reviewed a second ago, right? you can maybe find the settings for every one of those lines in this export, but that's not convenient at all, right? But then the question is, well, if I take the original values that I used to install the O5 release, and I'll just compare it to the O8 release, what would happen? And actually, they give you a couple of examples over here, which could be used in the same way. But if you read it like here, back to back, finding the differences is very hard. So what I did instead, I just created a side-by-side scrollable comparison between both of them, right? And in Notepad++, you can vertically synchronize two files. So, and you just look at the line. So you see that the line 17 was added. Okay, that's one line. We continue scrolling down, and you just copy from the original one, the O5 to the O8, instead of using the export, because they use the same values, right? And then you find that in some place related to databases, they added an Oracle entry that would be line number 2 that is different, right? So we're still scrolling down, and here in the BVD deployment, they and then with 176 deployment, BVD is 179. They use password key. There was a difference that I glanced over. 141, 1 second, sorry. Monitoring 152. Something happened, right? Something 145. As you see, I already lost it. So basically, when you glance through it, there is like a one additional line for the database that appears in the list, right? And then this OBM is maybe a little bit different, but when you scroll down, this is the part that is very different, right? So there is one line that I didn't use because I didn't use Oracle, and one capability that needed to be specified over here, cloud monitoring, that is. But basically, all of this procedure that kind of says, well, you need to use one and that, what you need to do, you need to take all of the values from 2105, you can actually use it, and then you add one line over here, right? And another one related to database somewhere in databases. I didn't find it right now in the quick scan, but that's basically what you do. And here at the bottom of it, of your file, you just use this as it is. No specifying anything else, right? So this is all different, but I guess it's really hard to document it in a consistent way. So I have a couple of ideas how to do it, but that's the only place where you confuse yourself. So basically, you prepare the new file, and you just copy, paste it, and you have yourselves the values file, right? So if I'll go, where is my PWD? Right, so I'll need to go CD root, ops bridge, switch chart, samples, and I'll edit the values YAML file as it is right now, right? So since I tested it in production, in dev, I'll just delete all of it. I'll just delete the whole file. There are many ways to do it, but this is one of them, right? And I'll just paste the whole thing right here, and I'll save the file. Okay, everything else is going to be very, very different. Okay, so this is file saved. And let me see, are we done with the upgrade? No, we're not. So next step would be upgrade containerized capabilities, which we don't do. Okay, but basically what you say is Helm upgrade, namespace that you need to specify, and a new chart file. Okay, and you use the same file for values that you created right now, but also secrets that was created like a long time ago. All right, so basically it's the same Helm upgrade command that you used in the O5 deployment. And let me show it to you right now. Basically, once the file is ready, I think it's on this tab. Once the file is ready, You just run Helm upgrade. Okay, it's not this Helm upgrade. It's probably this Helm upgrade over here. Sorry. History. And yeah, it's basically Helm upgrade, the values that you created, the chart, right? The old secrets that you created in the previous deployment and medium deployment, right? So basically a very, very simple reconfigure command that you see in the installation documentation, right? So if you go to the install section and it says how to rerun the Helm command, it's the same thing, right? And probably you run it because, well, who can install the whole thing from scratch without experience, without any mistakes? So you do run this Helm upgrade command to change settings, and that's it. So to recap, we have one command to do this, to do the upgrade. Okay, we have one command to upgrade the LPV storage, which runs for like 2 minutes. Of course, there is download and upload, which consumes time, but we're not considering it as part of dependencies that you can really mess up in any way. And then there is just copy pasting a few things in YAML, in values YAML, which is confusing. But then one single Helm upgrade command. That's it. So basically, we can conclude it into like 4 steps, the whole upgrade process, which is fantastic. It's fantastic compared to what I've seen in the past. It's working so well. I just couldn't believe it. I just was writing to my friends. Unbelievable. I don't know what to do. It just works so well. So this kind of recaptures the whole upgrade process. So we don't need to watch it live. You just need to be very careful about only one thing, which is generating the YAML. And I recommend just copying the old values and the new values files into Notepad++ with vertical scrolling synchronized. And that's all you will ever have to do in order to avoid mistakes in your upgrade process. All right, I'll see you in the next.